deal with PSG for Manuel Ugarte after tabling a 50 million euros bid yesterday. Ederson from Atalanta seen as a possible backup alternative, and Jaden Sancho set to be allowed to leave the club on loan this summer. These are some of the stories we will be discussing on this morning's show. But before we get into that, please do me one small favour. Smash a like on today's video. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. We're literally about to hit 40,000 subscribers. So if this is your first time watching, please do get involved. I'm live every day at 8:30, 1:30 and 6 p.m. UK time. Right. Let's jump straight on into the show then. Let me just check everything is working okay. I think we're good. Welcome everybody in the chat. I hope you're all doing good this morning. Okay, cool. Right, so let's start the show off by talking about Jaden Sancho, shall we? And I know people are sick to death of hearing this guy's name, but it is a news show. It is the transfer window, and Jaden Sancho is a big topic. So we're going to talk about him for a little bit. And I want you to answer me this question because I've got an opinion on it. It's something I feel quite passionate. I'm not sure if passionate's the right word, but it's something I've got an opinion on anyway. So Jaden Sancho. Do you think Jaden Sancho should be allowed to leave on loan this summer? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Now, I personally think that unless it's an obligation to buy, we shouldn't allow it. Because the problem I have with this is, Jaden's got 2 years left on his contract, right? His contract expires in 2026, I believe. Let me just double check my facts are correct there. I'm pretty sure that is correct, though. Yeah, 2 years. 2026, his contract expires. If we were to let Sancho go out on loan now, he'll come back in 1 year, next summer, and at that point, he'd only have a year left on his deal. I just have this nasty feeling that Jaden's going to go out on loan, come back to Manchester United next summer, and then be like, I'm going to leave for free the summer after. And we've effectively then just lost Jaden Sancho for nothing. That would be £73 million down the drain. So I personally think that unless we're going to get an obligation to buy, I just think it's a stupid deal to do. And I would even go as far as saying, right, I would rather keep Jaden Sancho at Manchester United this year and have him as an option in the squad. Because he is versatile, remember. He can play as a left winger, right winger, false nine, central attacking midfielder. I would much rather have Jaden Sancho available to us this season, whether that's off the bench, whether that's starting some games, whatever, than loan him out and then him leave the season later for nothing. Like, that just seems illogical to me. I think Jaden Sancho is a very talented player, and I think the key to unlocking Jaden Sancho is to get him in the right headspace, to get his mentality correct. And I know some people will say he's a professional footballer, he's earning crazy amounts of money. You know, there are hundreds of millions of people around the world who would love to be in his position. I get all of that, but at the end of the day, these people are still humans, and I think a lot of the time they don't know how lucky they are, probably. And they've kind of just take it for granted and take advantage of it. But that's just how some humans are, you know? So for me personally, I don't think Jaden Sancho should be allowed to leave on loan unless there's an obligation to buy. Because at the end of the day, we were the ones who paid the £73 million for him. We're still probably going to have to cover large portions of his salary if we let him go out on loan. And when you add up all of those bits together, like, it just doesn't really benefit Manchester United in any way whatsoever. But I'd be interested to see what you guys think. So let me bring you the news on Jaden Sancho. That's my kind of opinion on it. Let me bring you the news this morning. So Manchester Evening News are reporting this morning that apparently Chelsea are going to put an offer in for Jaden Sancho. That's what's being reported by Manchester Evening News. And they're even going as far as saying that a verbal agreement has been reached with PSG. Okay. I mean, if we could loan Jaden Sancho to PSG with an obligation to buy, I would be really, really happy with that. I would. I think it would be a good deal for everybody. I think Jaden would do well in the French league. I think he'd enjoy, the spotlight of being one of the biggest players at PSG. And I think he'd do amazingly in French league football because it is a massive step down from Manchester United in the Premier League. But the Manchester Evening News are reporting that this morning that Manchester United are prepared for Chelsea's Sancho bid as verbal agreement reached with PSG. Okay. Whether or not PSG will actually end up signing him remains to be seen, but there are lots and lots of clubs interested in him. Obviously, we've only got, 8 days left of the window now? And then we've also got stories coming out from various different other outlets this morning saying that Chelsea are going to put in an offer for Jaden Sancho. I don't really understand why Chelsea would even need Jaden Sancho. Doesn't make sense to me. Like, where's he going to play? Is he even going to have a seat in the dressing room? Is he going to have a seat on the bus? Chelsea have got about 40 first-team players, and you can only register 21 in a Premier League squad. Like, if Jaden Sancho goes to Chelsea, where's he going to play? They've got Pedro Neto, they've got Mudryk, they've got, obviously, they've just signed, Raheem Sterling's leaving, I guess. They've got Cole Palmer. Like, I don't really understand, you know? I can understand with PSG, because obviously they've lost Kylian Mbappe, and all they've signed is that Desiree Doué guy. And they probably do need to strengthen. I think Gonzalo Ramos is injured as well for most of the season. So they need more attacking players. They've got Dembele. They've obviously got that Desiree Doué guy. And that's kind of it as far as I can remember. I might be wrong. There might be some players I've missed out. But obviously Kylian Mbappe leaving PSG's, left a massive hole in their team. And I think Jaden Sancho going to PSG, I'm just having a look. So their attacking players are Asensio, who's probably going to leave. They've got that Barcola guy, who's pretty good. Dembele, and they've got Desiree Doué, and that's it. So they've only got like 4 attacking players, wingers. So yeah, let's see how that one progresses. But as I said, Manchester Evening News reporting this morning that apparently Chelsea are exploring an offer for Jaden Sancho, and apparently PSG have reached a verbal agreement with Jaden Sancho as well. So that's one to keep an eye on. Let me know your thoughts. Should Manchester United loan Jaden Sancho out? Do you think that would be a sensible deal to do? Let me know in the comment section below. Right, let's move on to the next story though, and let's jump over to something a little bit more positive and exciting, because Sky Sports are reporting this morning that apparently Manchester United are set to sit down with Kobbie Mainoo and discuss a brand new contract. I think he 100% deserves it without a shadow of a doubt. I think Kobbie Mainoo is the future of Manchester United. I think Kobbie Mainoo will probably be our midfield rock for the next decade, genuinely. And I think now the most important thing for Manchester United is, 1, to tie him down to a new contract, and 2, to build a team around him, to make sure that he's supported in that midfield. And it looks like Manuel Ugarte will be his kind of defensive support in that midfield for Manchester United. So yeah, really, really happy with Mainoo's progress. He's still, is he only 19 still, or was he 20 now? I think he's 19, isn't he? Yeah, he's 19 years. I mean, it's crazy, isn't it? Kobbie Mainoo, 19. Absolutely crazy. Starting every week for Manchester United, playing in the Euros final for England. Like, crazy, crazy, crazy player. And I think, honestly, the sky is the limit for Kobbie Mainoo. But the most important thing for me is ensuring that he isn't overplayed, ensuring that he's rotated, ensuring that we have other players who can operate in his position. And obviously Manuel Ugarte coming in will, 1, be a great partner for him, but also in certain matches, it might be that you play Ugarte and Casemiro and Bruno, if you need to be a bit more defensive. So yeah, really, really happy about that. In terms of wages and salary and stuff, I'm not, at the moment, it doesn't really say. I can't imagine Manchester United will go massively overboard. He currently earns £20,000 a week at Manchester United. Some stories this morning are saying that Man United will give him about $80,000 a week, which I think is probably fair. Like, yes, he's kind of burst onto the scene. Yes, he looks like an unbelievable player, but I don't think giving him more than £80,000 to £100,000 a week would be sensible, personally. But we'll see what happens. Like, if you look at Garnacho, for example, Garnacho was on about 10, 15k a week. He got a new contract and he's on 50k a week now. That's the kind of reward that these players should be getting. Doubling, tripling their salaries, not giving them like 200-300k a week at the age of 19. Like, that's just stupid. And that feels to me like something like the Glazers would have done. Like if Kobbie Mainoo was due a new contract, they would have given him like crazy, crazy money. I'm just looking here. So Garnacho was only on £5,000 a week, and then Manchester United put him up to £50,000 a week. I mean, that's a big jump, isn't it? But yeah, Garnacho was only on 5k a week before. So yeah, I think around 80 to 100 grand a week will probably be the kind of base salary for Mainoo. I'm sure there'll be some like performance related bonuses and stuff. But yeah, I've got no problem with that at all. I think he's definitely a very talented player. I think he's the future of Manchester United. And I think, as I said, we need to build around Kobbie Mainoo. Like, he needs to be the centre point of that midfield. And I think most people in the fan base would agree. Even rival fans would, accept how good of a player he is, which is rare. So, yeah. Martin says, do you think Sancho to PSG would be a swap deal since they don't have any money? Maybe. I think swap deals are relatively difficult, to be honest, generally. But it's possible. Al says, why don't we just keep Mainoo on his cheap contract? Because the thing is, right, if you do that, then you run the risk of the player being like, I don't feel valued, I don't feel like I'm being respected, I don't feel like I'm being paid a fair amount of money, and then they want to leave, you know? So I understand your point, you know? Oh, he's on 20 grand a week, just keep him on 20 grand a week. But when you've got Anthony on 200k a week, you've got Jaden Sancho who calls out the manager and disrespects the club on 250k a week. Like, if you're Kobe Mainu, you're looking at the situation and thinking, well, I deserve a pay rise. And we can all agree on that, can't we? So, yeah. Somebody in the chat saying, is Ugarte a here we go? No, Ugarte's not a here we go yet, my friend. Cam says, do you think we'll get top 4 if we sign Manuel Ugarte? To be honest with you, mate, I don't think it's as black and white as that. Let me say this, right? If, let's say 90% of our first team players stay fit this season, I think we'll get top 4. But if we have injuries like we did last season, I think we'll probably finish anywhere between 6th and 10th, to be honest, because our backup players are so poor. They are. Like, this summer wasn't about building a squad. It was about building a first team. And that's what Ineos have done. Like, every single player we've signed so far this summer, De Ligt is a starting centre-back. Mazraoui is a starting right-back. Lenny Yoro would be a starting centre-back probably at some point when he's back fit. And Xerxes is pretty much a starting striker because him and Højlund will kind of rotate between the two, right? And then if you go down to look at our bench, and this is why I'm cautious about saying we'll easily get top 4, because I think our team on paper, if our team stays fit and we don't have any problems, then I think top 4 is easily achievable. Easy, because we've definitely got a good enough squad. But all you have to do is look at our bench, right? Our bench against Fulham last Friday was Johnny Evans, Toby Collier, Scott McTominay, Christian Eriksen, Garnacho, Anthony, Altay Bayindir, De Ligt, and Joshua Xerxes. Like, you go through that team there, okay? Christian Eriksen, I don't think is good enough for the Premier League anymore. Toby Collier is a youth player, probably not ready, but I think has a lot of potential. Johnny Evans does a job, but let's be honest, like, if Martinez gets injured again and we have to go back to Maguire and Evans or De Ligt and Evans or something, do you know what I mean? And then you look at other top clubs, right? Let's have a look at, say, like Arsenal. And this is why I've said to you before, I think it's going to take 2 or 3 windows to get us to a place where, we're in a position to challenge. Because I honestly think, right, if our first team stays fit all season, we could easily get top 4, easy. But that's not going to happen, you know? Like, it's just simply not going to happen in the current world of things, because injuries just seem to happen so frequently. If Manuel Ugarte signs, do I think that will automatically give us top 4? I still don't see it, to be honest. As I said, if our team stays fit and we don't get injuries and, Martinez has a good season, Onana has a better season, then yeah, I think top 4 is definitely achievable. But that's my opinion anyway. You can let me know what you guys think. It's a good question. As Ant says, 2 injuries and we're screwed. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, we are a couple of injuries away from, I don't want to say crisis, but it kind of feels a little bit like that, Like, if in the next game, Martinez and Mainu get injured, then you're probably going to be looking at Johnny Evans or Maguire and McTominay playing, That's my kind of take on it. So, yeah, I think if our team stays fit, 100%, we can get top 4, I think. If we get loads of injuries like we did last year, I think we'll be lucky to get top 6 based on, But hopefully this season we're lucky. Hopefully this season we don't get injuries. Hopefully everyone stays fit. Hopefully everyone gels. And it goes well. We've got over 1,300 people watching the video live now, which is amazing. We've only got 200 likes though, so if everyone could do me a small favour and smash a like, that'd be really, really appreciated. Let's get to 1,000 likes by the end of today's video. And if this is your first time watching, please do subscribe to the channel. We're only 7 subscribers away from 38,700, so please go and subscribe if you haven't already. Just a quick reminder, once we hit 40k subs, I will be giving out 2 brand new Manchester United shirts. We'll be doing a competition, a cheeky giveaway to give back to this community, so make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. Okay, let's move on from that though. Let's move over to Manuel Ugarte then, shall we? So this story came out from United Muppeteers, which is, I don't know if I'd call him a journalist. I guess I would. A journalist that puts out really, really good information around Manchester United. He seems to get his information directly from the club, it seems. And he was reporting last night that apparently Manchester United offered PSG 50 million euros yesterday for Manuel Ugarte. I mean, if we got him for 50 million euros, I'd be happy. I think that's probably the absolute limit of what I think his value is. 50 million euros is about 42 million pounds. I think that's fair, to be honest. Like, I would not have a problem with that. 50 million euros. I think the problem I've got is if we pay 60 million. And the reason for it is because we could have bought him for 60 million euros 10 weeks ago. And if we spend a whole transfer window negotiating for a player to then just pay what the team wanted anyway, I think that makes us look weak. I think it makes us look stupid. I think it makes us look like we don't know what we're doing. And I just feel like Ineos aren't like that, you know? I feel like so far what we've seen in the window, Ineos have said either we get the price we want or we walk away. And I respect that. I would rather us not sign Manuel Ugarte than sign him for a fee that's more than what he's worth just because we need a player. Like, Manchester United need to steer away from those dark days where, you know, under the Glazers, we would just go and pay whatever the other team wanted. There was no negotiation. We just give them what they wanted. And so far in this window, I feel like Ineos have been very good at saying, you know, like with De Ligt, Bayern Munich wanted 42 million. We said 37. We got him for 37. And that's £5 million. That's good. It's a reduction. 30, you know, the same with Mazraoui. Mazraoui, apparently Bayern wanted about 20 million. We got him for 12.8 million. Like, we've done really good business so far this window. And I think that this Manuel Ugarte one is kind of the transfer that everybody's focusing on. It's the big transfer. It's the key position that we really, really need. And I think the football world is watching. And the price that we get for Manuel Ugarte now, I think will have a ripple effect in all of the next kind of windows. Because if we manage to get PSG down on price, I think clubs will start looking at Man United and saying, you know what? They clearly know what they're doing in the transfer window. Let's be a bit more realistic in the prices we're quoting them because we know they're not going to pay it. Whereas at the moment, they still have that perception of when the Glazers were here, when John Murtagh was here, Ed Woodward was here, where like Man United come knocking and a £50 million player is suddenly a £100 million player, you know? And Manchester United will say, oh, we're not paying 100 million. And then a month later, they pay 100 million. Like, the amount of times that happened is absolutely crazy. You know, Anthony was a prime example. Anthony was available in 2022 at the beginning of the summer for about 30, 40 million euros. Manchester United waited until the final week of the window and paid them 95 million, you know? And that's why we're perceived so badly in the window, and that's why we're effectively a laughingstock, I think. But I think Ineos are changing that, and I think that they have done a very, very good job so far of changing how we are perceived by, you know, other top clubs in the transfer window. So yeah, for me personally, if we can get him for 50 million euros, I'll be happy. I think that's his fair market value. What does it say on Transfer Market? Let's have a look. I always think Transfer Market's quite reliable. Obviously, it's not 100% accurate, but it gives you like a good idea. So on Transfer Market, Manuel Ugarte is priced at 45 million euros. That probably is fair, I think. 50 million euros is still maybe a little bit too much, but like, I would be happy with that because we know that PSG have been saying 60 million, 60 million, 60 million for the last 10 weeks. And if Manchester United now manage to get him for 10 million under their asking price, I think you have to be happy with that. You know, we can all sit here and say, oh, he's only worth 30, he's only worth 20. But the fact of the matter is, he's worth whatever the selling club want to sell him for. And it's then up to Manchester United to decide whether they want to pay that fee and whether they can get a reduction on that fee. And it looks like they will get some sort of reduction. Okay, so let's move on to some more focused news on Manuel Ugarte. So L'Equipe, obviously the French outlet, are reporting in the last couple of minutes. Let me just get the story up for you. So L'Equipe are reporting that negotiations between PSG and Manchester United on a loan deal with an obligation to buy are going to be successful, they say. They say the position of both clubs has become very close. The deal could be finalised in the next few hours. So this is coming up from L'Equipe, reporting that it will be a loan deal for one season with an obligation to buy at the end of it. I've got no problem with that at all. But what I don't want is, at the end of that loan, it to be a 60 million euros obligation, because that makes no sense. Like, as I said, we could have done that deal 10 weeks ago because PSG have been asking for 60 million euros for the last 10 weeks. So why wait 10 weeks and then take him on loan to then pay the 60 million next summer. Like, that doesn't make sense. And again, I think it just makes us look a little bit unprofessional and a little bit like we don't know what we're doing. But this is just one story coming out. And obviously this story's come out from a French outlet, a Paris-based outlet, who are obviously going to be kind of putting out the agenda. So yeah, I would honestly be stunned at this point. Let's do a poll. Let's do a poll on this. Is Manuel Ugarte worth 60 million euros? There you go. So everyone can have their say. Do you think Manuel Ugarte is worth 60 million euros? Let me know. I say no, 100%, but obviously have your say. Don't go along with me just because I've said no. I personally think that 40 million euros would be a bargain, 45 would probably be fair, and 50 million euros would probably be a little bit of a push, but probably fair. That's my kind of perception. Anything above 50 million euros, I think is very, very questionable, personally. You know, like, he had one good season for Sporting Lisbon. He went to PSG. He didn't play many games last year because of the emergence of Warren Zaire-Emery. And people will say, oh, well, he plays for the Uruguayan national team. Pellistri plays for the Uruguayan national team, and we just sold him for 6 million euros. Like, I'm not being funny. That doesn't really mean anything. Like, all you have to do is look at the players in Uruguay's squad. Because there was this perception around Pellistri where people were like, it's a disgrace. He's a full Uruguayan international. We've sold him for 6 million. Like, how has this happened? It's a disgrace. Blah, blah, blah. Right? Go and have a look at the Uruguayan national team. Right? Literally, if you look at the wingers, Pellistri's the most valuable winger in price-wise in the Uruguayan national team. If I read you out the other wingers available for Uruguay, I would be surprised if any of you know a single one of them. Augustin Canobio. You've got Brian Ocampo, Brian Rodriguez, and Maximilian Araujo. Not the one from Barcelona. So the point I'm trying to make here is, right, there's this perception that, you know, Pellistri should have gone for more because he's a full international. There's this perception that Manuel Ugarte is probably better than he is because he plays every game for Uruguay. Like, the next best players in those squads are players that you've probably never even heard of, you know? So, yeah, I still want to get Manuel Ugarte, by the way. I'm not like shooting him down. I'm just saying that just because somebody plays for the international team doesn't mean that means they're worth 60 million, you know? And we haven't seen enough from Manuel Ugarte for me to say that he's worth 60 million. Maybe he comes to Manchester United. Maybe he gets in the team of the season. Maybe he helps us win the Premier League. At that point, you'd say he's worth 60 million, you know? But at the moment, we can't say that for sure. So, yeah, that's my take on Manuel Ugarte. I really, really want him to come to Manchester United. I think he's a quality player. I think he has a lot of potential. I think he's still very young. I think he has a lot of growth still to do. I think he's exactly the model of player we need, 23 years of age. He can become whatever Manchester United want him to become by way of quality. But 60 million is too much. So yeah, let's see what else has come in about Manuel Ugarte in the last couple of hours. I mean, we need to get a here we go like today, really, I think, or tomorrow, because the window closes next Friday. We play Liverpool a week on Saturday at Old Trafford. We need him signed by then, I think. We need him to be training next week. We need him in the squad. I personally think that we'll have the here we go by Saturday before the Brighton game. That's my prediction, because it's getting towards the end of the window now. PSG are probably going to want to go and sign some more players, and they'll want to know that Manuel Ugarte is sorted before they go and start buying other players. So yeah, I reckon we'll get the here we go today or tomorrow is my prediction. But obviously that's just a guess. All of the French outlets are reporting that the deal is very close. They're saying it's imminent. They're saying that it will be a loan with an obligation to buy. But those are all the French outlets, and they've obviously got this agenda to push the story faster than others, I'd say. Whereas like the Fabrizios, the David Ornsteins, they've not quite got to that stage yet. They're saying that talks are advanced. They're saying that, you know, he doesn't want to go anywhere else. Like, that's the general narrative. But yeah, I would be very, very surprised if it doesn't happen, you know, very surprised. But it's just whether we get the price right. It's just whether Manchester United cave in and give PSG the 60 million euros or not. That's the question that we all need to kind of discuss, really, and have an opinion on. So you can let me know. Someone saying they don't like my comment about Pellistri. The thing with football is, right, it's all about opinions, okay? And all you have to go and do, let's just get it up on my screen. Let's get it up on my screen because people, I have no problem with having conversations, right? So there was this narrative over the last couple of days that, it's a disgrace that Pellistri was sold for €6 million. He starts for the Uruguayan national team. He's an international player. Like, it's not like he's an international player for England starting every single game who've got an unbelievable squad. Like, I've got this up on my screen now, right? Let me put this full screen for you. You'll still hear my voice, but I'll be behind the video, okay? So that there are the wingers available in the Uruguayan national team. Is there anybody genuinely watching this video that can tell me they know any of those players apart from Pellistri? The highest value player on that list is Maximilian Araujo for €7.5 million. You've then got Brian Rodriguez for €4 million. You've got Brian Ocampo for €900,000. You've got Augustin Canobio for €5 million, and you've got Christian Oliveira. So you can see why Facundo Pellistri is starting every single game. He's the youngest, and he's the most valuable, and he was playing for Manchester United. Like, it's not like England where you've got Grealish and all these people who don't even make it into the squad, So that was all I was saying. And the point I'm trying to make is, just because someone is a full international, you have to go and look at the context. You have to go and look at what other options they have there. And in relation to Uruguay, they have a really good starting 11, but their squad depth is pretty minimal, to be honest, So yeah, that's why I said that comment about Uruguayan national team. Joshua says, I know 4 of them. Yeah, I'm sure you do, Josh, because you yeah, I mean, I don't know any of them, so fair play for knowing some of them. But yeah, I don't really watch Uruguay play at all. But like, if you want to do the comparison, which obviously we can do, say you compare that with the England national team, right? And you look at the squad depth there. If, say, Manuel Ugarte, a prime example, right? Declan Rice, he's the starting CDM for England, isn't he? He went for 100 million. And the other options that they've got in their midfield are Adam Wharton, Kobe Mainoo, Conor Gallagher, Jude Bellingham, Cole Palmer, Eze. So, like, you can see the difference there in like the players that are available. I'm not saying that Declan Rice was worth 100 million, by the way. He definitely wasn't. But that was what they valued him at. Michael says Newcastle paid 55 million for Tonali. I don't think that's a terrible deal, is it? 55 million for Tonali? I don't know. Obviously, it looks like a bad deal because of the gambling the gambling charges and all the rest of it, or allegations. But I think at the time, 55 million for Tonali wasn't a terrible deal. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't really know. Are you saying that Dan Ashworth doesn't know what he's doing effectively because he paid 55 million for Tonali? Maybe. I don't know. We'll wait and see anyway. Like, it's impossible until we know exactly what the transfer fee is going to be. It's impossible to judge, isn't it? At the moment, it's going to be somewhere between 50 and 60 million euros. That's pretty obvious to see. 60 million is what PSG want. 50 million is what Manchester United want to pay. So maybe they meet in the middle. Maybe they pay 55 million. Yeah, until we get the kind of here we go, we won't know the finite details of the deal. Sonny says that 6 million was on the low side for Pellistri, but I'm glad he can go and play now. Yeah, I agree. It was on the low, but there is 2 million euros in add-ons, and there is a 45% sell-on clause, and there is a buyback option for 3 years. So I think when you look at it like that, it's win-win. So it's win-win for Pellistri, I think. He goes off, he plays in Greece. If he does well, we have the option to bring him back for 3 years. Till 2027, we have that option. If he goes there and flops and no one ever hears of him again, then 6 million euros is great, you know? So I'm happy with the Pellistri deal. And alternatively, if he goes to Greece, he does really well, and Man United say we don't want to bring him back, we can then get a 45% of the future transfer fee. So I actually think it's quite a clever deal. Baba says, were there any other offers for Pellistri other than the Greek league? As far as I'm aware, there was nobody else putting in an offer for Pellistri. None. There was no one else reporting it. At all. So I don't know. I personally think that, right, Manchester United saw it as more of like a permanent loan deal, if that makes sense. So they're loaning him to someone where he can go and he's going to get guaranteed game time. They can watch his development. They'll cover his wages. They'll give us a transfer fee. If it works out, we bring him back. If it doesn't work, then we obviously don't bring him back. And I think that's how they saw it. Because, you know, like a Premier League club probably wouldn't have agreed to the deal that Panathinaikos agreed to. I don't think. Because why would they do that? Why would they agree for 3 years that we can bring him back? Like, that doesn't really benefit them, does it? You know? Let's see what else people are saying in the chat quickly. Rob says, I think Ugarte is the one that will get us top 4. We should pay what PSG want. We will get a few millions for qualifying for the Champions League. I don't know, mate. I just think, can we put all of our hope into one player? I don't think so. Can we put all of our success for this season into whether we sign Manuel Ugarte or not? I don't think it's as simple as that, to be honest. I don't. Because even if we sign Manuel Ugarte, what happens if Martinez and De Ligt get injured? And then you're back to Maguire and Johnny Evans. You know? And that could well happen. What happens if, I don't know, Bruno gets injured? Or I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, what happens? Or Kobe Mainu. Like, what happens then? Then you're down to McTominay and Eriksen. So the point I made earlier on in the video is our starting 11, I think, is good enough to beat pretty much any team in the world. Our starting 11, we beat Man City in the FA Cup a couple of months ago, supposedly one of the best teams in the world. Those 11 players, I think, on their day can beat pretty much anybody, I think. Obviously, they can lose as well, but you know what I mean. Like, they are good enough to beat anybody. But our bench is terrible, realistically. It is. And that's what Ineos are going to try and build over the next 2 or 3 windows. Like, Man City's bench would beat most teams in the Premier League. Outside of the top 4. I genuinely think their bench, outside of the top 4, would beat most teams. Or at least give most teams a good game. You know, when you looked at the options they had last season. Whereas Manchester United's bench last season was mainly youth players. So, yeah, that's the difference. And I think, I agree with you. If Ugarte comes in, he stays fit, and all of our first team, all of our first team stay fit, I think we can easily get top 4 without a shadow of a doubt, maybe even higher. But if we have injuries again, I honestly think we'll finish somewhere between 6th and 10th. And that's not being negative, it's just being realistic. We finished 8th last season. Someone's saying water your plant. Which one needs water? Is it that one up there? I think it needs more light, actually. It's not very happy up there. Right, I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. It feels like a good point to end today's video. I'll be back at 1:30 and 6. Please make sure to leave a like before you go. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. This has been Daily Red Devil. Have a lovely day or afternoon, wherever you are in the world. And I will speak to you all at 1:30. Bye for now.